I grew up with a healthy fear of clowns, I'd say. Could have been because of Stephen King. Could have been because of John Wayne Gacy. Could have just been because they're fucking creepy looking. My family has never let me live this down, so it shouldn't have been much of a surprise to me when I walked into our house one day to see a 7-foot animatronic clown peering at me from the corner of our living room. A sign hung around his neck that read, "Free hugs." I felt my eyebrows scrunch together in disgust and walked off to bed. It was too late for me to be dealing with this. The following morning I was startled awake by a high pitch and crazed laughter. For a moment I felt my legs seize up before remembering. I walked into the room to see my 18-year-old sister, Lily, stepping on a little pad connected to the clown and giggling as it reached out its robotic arms out to pretend to grab her. She noticed me and giggled even harder. "I got him at the Halloween store." "Yippee," I said as I peered over to the frozen figure towering over us both. "His name is Giggles. Dad said we're gonna move him to your room once Halloween is over." She smirked. I did not. She left for work quickly after and told me to have fun with Giggles, once again breaking out into laughter. I didn't study him too hard last night, but now I stepped back and really noticed his face. My legs once again started to feel tense. His eyes were yellow, almost cat-like, with purple diamond makeup surrounding them. A goofy white smile permanently painted on. Wild hair to match the purple and bloodied outfit he had on. A fake deck of cards rested in his pocket. Other than his eyes, his face looked weirdly human. Usually the animatronics you see in haunted houses and Halloween stores just resemble giant, kinda creepy dolls. But Giggles looks like he walked straight out of a freak show and into my home. I chalked it up to the advancement in technology and went back to bed. I dreamed of Giggles snapping my spine, my body broken, mangled mess, his smile still frozen. I woke up to laughter once again. This time I sighed. Was this gonna be the new routine? Mom was in the living room, reading on the couch. I sat down next to her, and without looking up she said, "This stupid thing has gone off on its own twice since I got out here." Haha, I muttered, thinking she was just teasing me. As soon as the sarcastic laugh had left my mouth, Giggle's yellow eyes lit, and his arm stretched forward. "Oh, you think you're a little fast? I'll get you next time," followed by the same laugh I'd been woken up to twice earlier. I noticed Mom shoot me her "I told you so" look at the corner of my eye, but I remained fixated on Giggles. Do animatronics' mouths usually open and form words so perfectly? Maybe he's on a motion sensor. I walked over and swung my arms a few times. Nothing other than how his eyes seemed to follow my arms. I looked over at Mom and frowned, thinking about how I already want to get rid of this stupid thing. No, Lily bought that pad thing, so she didn't need to turn the sensors on. I was still skeptical, or maybe I just wanted Mom to be wrong. I reached behind Giggles to take a look for wires connected to him and saw there wasn't. Motion sensors were off. As soon as I let go of Giggles, the yellow eyes flared up and the robotic arms reached out. One caught my arm, then I felt a light squeeze as the clown yelled, "Come a little closer, I've got games and hugs." I gasped and jumped back as he gleefully laughed, then went back to his normal stance. I stood there feeling as stiff as Giggles was until I heard my mom laugh. "You don't like clowns, huh?" I glared at her as I started back towards my room. I heard Giggles laughing as I closed my door. Ever since Giggles moved into the living room, my cardiac rhythm seemed to be the only thing that hadn't been waking me up. This time, it wasn't laughter, it was my dog. My eyes fluttered open, hearing a slight whimper in my ear. My 110-pound St. Bernard was staring back at me, her weapon of a tail whipping my legs with every wag. "What you doing, bub?" Charity usually only sleeps in my mom's room, but anytime she hears something that scares her, it's in my bed she ends up in. This particular night, the sound happened to be thunder. As lightning broke through the heavy clouds and briefly lit up my room, I pat her head. Thunder cracked again, and when my room lit up this time, I noticed something in my mirror. Grabbed a flashlight on my nightstand. I squinted as my eyes adjusted and noticed my reflection twist its face in horror. Written on the wall behind my bed in purple letters, "Come a little closer." Thunder loudly filled my ears as well as laughter from the other room. Maybe it wasn't the storm that scared my dog. The next few days came and went. There were small things happening that only I seemed to notice. One morning I noticed Giggle's white gloves were splattered with what looked like to be dried blood. Later I found a mutilated dead bird on our deck. The next day, Giggles was facing a little bit more to the right than usual, and I found a Joker card sitting on my bed later on. Giggles constantly went off on his own. I thought I was going crazy, but that didn't stop me from constantly feeling on edge. Then Friday came, date night for my parents. Lily was working the third shift. I was alone. Well, I was with Giggles. 10 o'clock came. I kept Charity in my room, not because she was scared, but because I was. Laughter erupted from the living room a couple of times, and I shivered. I turned up the volume on my TV. 11:30. More laughter. Closer this time. Then again, right outside my door. I held my breath. Charity was fast asleep under my bed. I listened. Silence. Then I heard scratching. Come a little closer. Voice was not a usual one, but it was quieter, teasing me. I fumbled around my bed trying to find my phone. I texted my mom and told her to call 911. Then I reached for the nightstand drawer. The scratching turned to knocking, and I searched frantically for anything I could use as a weapon. Come a little closer, Giggles snickered. I found a pocket knife. I clutched it tightly. Giggles was now pounding on my door, the knob rattling viciously as he howled with his wild laughter. If you don't come closer, I will. Then nothing. The door stopped shaking. The knob sat still. Charity was now sitting at the foot of my bed, the hair on her neck standing. I didn't dare move. Suddenly, the door broke off its hinges, collapsing loudly against my floor. I cried out loudly in fright as I stared straight into hollow yellow eyes. He stood there, not moving, just smiling and staring. But this wasn't his normal robotic position. He was alive. He was staring me down. He was gonna kill me. His lips formed a pout, though his makeup still rested in his ugly grin. What's the matter? You don't want a hug? His shrieking laugh pierced my ears. Charity let out a low growl. That's when he barreled towards me. His already bloody gloves grabbed a hold of my arm. He leaned in close. His eyes burned. My heart was beating so hard, I thought I'd break my ribs. Now we can play a game. We'll see how much of you breaks before you die. I heard it before I felt it, the crunch that could have been a tree branch being stepped on, but instead it was my arm being snapped. The pain radiated through my body and I screamed. I couldn't hear myself over Giggles laughing out of joy. I stared down at my bone, broken and jutting out of my body, blood soaking my sheets and dripping on my carpet. Giggles had left what looked to be a burn in the shape of his hands on my skin. I cried, paralyzed. That's when Charity jumped. I went to yell out to her, not wanting her to meet the same fate, but she caught Giggles by surprise, clamping down on his shoulder and ripping his arm right out of the socket. It dropped heavily on the floor, and Charity barked as sirens could be heard wailing in the distance. Giggles started towards Charity, then stopped and looked at me instead. His mouth curled into a horrible smile, and he said, "Don't worry, I'll keep close. We can finish the game soon." He ran out of my room, and I saw blue and red flashing lights coming outside my window a few minutes later. Giggles was never found. The police probably thought I was crazy, my family too, but no one ever said anything. After all, how could you explain the burn marks on my arm, the broken bone, my dog refusing to leave my side, and the robot's lifeless arm beside her? Charity sleeps by me every night now, and no one has ever brought a clown into our house ever since, which is weird because sometimes I do hear one giggling.